I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. We've had our ups and downs, sure, but I always thought we were solid. She's always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, stubborn, quick to dismiss my feelings, but I loved her and I thought she loved me back. We had a decent life, 2 kids, a nice house, steady jobs, or at least I thought it was steady. Lately, something felt off. Lisa had been more bitchy than usual, snapping at me over small things, acting distant even when we were in the same room. I figured she was stressed at work or just tired, but I noticed she was staying late more often, and her phone was glued to her hand even more than usual. She'd hide it when I walked into the room or try to change the subject if I asked what she was doing. The first real sign of trouble was when I caught her sneaking her phone away when I was in the kitchen. She always used to be open about her messages and social media, but suddenly, she was secretive. One night, I just happened to walk past her purse and saw her phone buzzing with messages from someone named John. At first, I thought it was just a friend, maybe a coworker. But then I saw the tone of the messages. They weren't friendly, they were flirty, teasing, suggestive. My stomach clenched. I recognized the name. John was our neighbor, the guy I'd helped get a job at my company 6 months ago. I introduced him to Lisa at a barbecue I threw, thinking he'd be a good fit for a position we had open. She had seemed friendly, even a little flirty with him then, but I brushed it off as harmless. Now I wasn't so sure. The messages kept piling up and Lisa's attitude started to get worse. She was bitchier, more dismissive, and whenever I asked about her late nights or her phone, she'd brush me off, call me paranoid, accuse me of interfering. But I knew asterisk. I just didn't have proof yet, and that made me furious. I felt like I was losing my wife to some guy I had helped get a job, who she was apparently sleeping with. In his garden shed while I was out busting my ass at work to give her and the kids a good life. One evening I decided enough was enough. I followed her when she left the house but didn't make her notice. She was heading straight to John's house, the one I helped him get into, the one she'd been messaging so much. I parked a few blocks away, across the street from his yard, and what I saw made my blood run cold. She went into the garden shed, not just a quick visit either. She stayed there for nearly an hour, laughing, whispering, touching each other. I saw her hand go to his chest, then her lips pressed to his. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner for 7 years, was screwing our neighbor in his shed while I was out working for us. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind was racing. I wanted to storm over there, confront her, tear everything apart, but I held back. I just watched in disbelief as she kissed him one last time and then slipped out, looking around like she was trying to make sure no one saw her. I waited until she was gone and then I got out of my car, walked straight to the shed and peeked inside. The sight was burned into my mind forever. They were in there, both of them, lying on a pile of old blankets, clearly having sex. I saw her straddle him, her bitchy little face twisted with pleasure, and I knew I'd found my breaking point. She had lied, cheated, disrespected everything we had, all behind my back. I froze there for a moment, feeling like everything I believed in was shattering right then and there. That's when I realized I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. All I knew was my wife, the woman I loved, had been sleeping with our neighbor, someone I helped get a job, and it was killing me inside. I didn't trust her anymore, and I definitely didn't want to be with someone who could do this to me, to us, to our family. I just stood there watching her in that shed, feeling the betrayal hit harder than anything I'd ever experienced. I didn't move for a long time after I saw them in that shed. My mind was racing, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. It was surreal, like I was stuck in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept replaying every moment, the way Lisa looked, how her hands touched him, the way she whispered into his ear like she was craving his attention more than anything else. It was all too much. I felt my stomach turn and my fists clench. I was furious, heartbroken, and downright devastated all at once. I didn't know how to feel or what to do next. Part of me wanted to run over there, burst into the shed, and scream at her in front of him. Part of me wanted to collapse right there in my car and cry my eyes out. But I held it in because I knew the moment I made a move, everything would change forever. I stayed in the shadows, watching them, trying to gather my thoughts, trying not to lose my mind. I had always trusted her. I thought we had something real. Now I wasn't sure what was left. By the time she left the shed, I was already making plans. I waited a few minutes, then quietly slipped back to my car and drove home. I didn't want her to see me, not yet. I needed to think, to breathe, to figure out what the hell I was going to do. When I got home, the house was silent. The kids were in bed and Lisa was probably already out somewhere, probably with him, I thought bitterly. I didn't bother confronting her that night. I just sat on the couch, numb, staring at the wall, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. Over the next few days, I played it over and over in my head. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. The betrayal cut so deep, I felt like I was hollow inside. Every time I saw her or heard her voice, I felt a surge of anger. How could she lie so easily? How could she do this after everything we'd been through? I kept asking myself if I was crazy or if I had missed the signs, but deep down, I knew. I had been blind to her bitchy, manipulative side for too long. She was always quick to dismiss my feelings, always acting like I was stupid for doubting her. One day, I finally decided I couldn't keep this bottled up. I confronted her face to face when she came home from whatever work meeting she claimed she had. I was cold, quiet at first, but then I just laid it all out, what I saw, how I felt, what I'd discovered. I expected her to deny it, to come up with some bullshit excuse or lie her way out of it. Instead, she looked me dead in the eyes and smirked, like she knew she had the upper hand. "Oh, you saw that, huh?" she said, folding her arms, her tone dripping with contempt. "Big deal. It's not like it means anything. I don't owe you an explanation for what I do with my body. Besides, I was bored and John's really good in bed. You wouldn't understand. The sex between us is better than anything you ever gave me, so don't start acting like I betrayed you or some shit." I stared at her in disbelief. I couldn't believe the venom coming out of her mouth. Her words stung worse than anything else. How could she be so bitchy, so callous? She brushed it off like it was nothing, like I was just some inconvenience in her life. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife. I was dealing with someone who didn't respect me, didn't love me, and clearly had no problem lying and manipulating to get what she wanted. I wanted to punch her, scream at her, tell her how much she hurt me. But I didn't. Instead, I just looked at her, feeling my heart break a little more every second. I knew then that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to decide whether I was going to let her keep playing me or finally take control of this mess. But deep down, I already knew the answer. She was done. And so was I. The betrayal was too deep, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I had to think about what this all meant for me, for my kids, for everything I thought I knew about my life. The days that followed were pure chaos. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that shed with him, her bitchy little smirk, her hands on his chest. I'd catch myself staring out the window, wondering if she'd come home, if she'd try to lie her way out of it again, or pretend nothing happened. But I knew the truth, and that truth was like a weight pressing down on me, crushing everything I believed in. I decided I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to come up with some dumb excuse or for her to think I was stupid enough to buy her lies. I needed a plan, something to make her see that I wasn't a fool, that I wasn't going to just roll over and accept her betrayal. I spent nights awake, just mapping out what I was going to do. Part of me wanted to confront her outright, tear her apart in front of the whole damn world, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. No, I needed to be smart, calculated. One thing I did was start gathering evidence. I installed a hidden camera in the living room. Nothing obvious, just a small device I knew she wouldn't notice. I wanted proof, real proof, that I could show her or use if I decided to go through with ending this mess. I kept checking her phone whenever she left it unattended, copying messages, taking screenshots. I even snooped through her emails. The more I looked, the clearer it became she had been planning this for a while. She didn't just cheat once, she was in deep with John. They'd been meeting in that shed for weeks. I found photos, texts, even explicit photos she'd sent him. It felt like I was losing my mind, but I told myself I had to stay strong. I knew I couldn't just blow up and lose control. No, I needed to be strategic. I started talking to a lawyer just to see what my options were if I decided to divorce her. I didn't want to do that blindly. I wanted to know what I was entitled to, what my rights were, especially since I was providing most of the financial support. My mind kept racing. What's the point of staying if your wife is screwing your neighbor? What do I do with all these feelings of betrayal and anger? Meanwhile, Lisa kept acting like nothing was wrong. She'd come home, act like she was the victim, say I was overreacting, accuse me of spying on her, or being paranoid. She'd call me jealous, insecure, a control freak. She'd throw fits when I questioned her, call me a terrible husband. But I knew better. I knew she was lying, sneaking around, hiding her phone, and she had the nerve to call me insecure. That was rich. The more she lied, the more I saw through her, and I started to realize she was the one who was insecure, afraid of being caught, afraid of losing her affair. One day, I decided I'd had enough of her bullshit. I waited until she left for work, then I sat her down and showed her all the evidence I had collected. I played her the recordings from the hidden camera, showed her the photos and texts. Her face turned red, then pale. She tried to deny it at first, but she couldn't keep lying forever. When she saw I was serious, her bitchy smirk disappeared. She looked cornered, defiant, like she thought she could still manipulate her way out of it. "You don't have any proof," she hissed, sneering. "You're just a jealous, insecure little man who can't handle his wife having a little fun. It's just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean anything. You're overreacting. You're paranoid." I stared at her, shaking with rage. "It's not just sex, Lisa. It's cheating. It's disrespecting everything we built. You lied to me, cheated on me with our neighbor, someone I trusted enough to help get a job in my company. And you think it's just fun? No, it's betrayal. And I'm done pretending it's okay." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You're overreacting as usual. You're insecure because I don't want to be with your boring ass anymore. Maybe I deserve better. Maybe John does too. You're just too stupid to see it." That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending she'd change or that she even cared about us anymore. She was so bitchy, so full of herself, that she thought she could lie her way out of everything. But I refused to be a fool any longer. I knew I had to decide whether to fight for my marriage or walk away from this nightmare. Deep down, I already knew I'd had enough. She was gone from my life, one way or another. The question was just how it would end. The confrontation was intense, and honestly, I didn't hold back. I told her everything I'd found, showed her the evidence, and made it clear I wasn't going to tolerate her bitchy, manipulative lies anymore. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, dismissive, full of accusations that I was crazy, paranoid, controlling. She had that smirk still on her face, as if she thought she'd won, like she was so much smarter than me. That pissed me off even more. She started to spin her usual bullshit, claiming I was jealous, insecure, that John was just a friend she was talking to, that I was reading her messages wrong. She barked, "You don't understand anything about sex or women," and then threw in, "You're just too boring, Mike. Maybe John's the one who can make me feel alive." That last part cut deep. She's always been bitchy about sex, always acting like I'm some kind of disappointment because I don't satisfy her the way she wants. But now, hearing her say those words, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I told her that I was done, tired of her lies, tired of her bullshit. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I was done being a fool for someone who clearly didn't respect me or our vows. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said, "You're making a huge mistake, Mike. You're overreacting. You're going to regret this." Yeah, right, I didn't care what she thought anymore. I was tired of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations. I'd given her enough chances, and now I was ready to put an end to it. That night, I packed her bags, just enough to get her out of the house for good. She screamed, called me a controlling asshole, said I was ruining everything, but I didn't care. I wanted her gone. I couldn't look at her without feeling sick. I knew I wasn't going to forgive her, not anymore. She had crossed a line I wasn't willing to let her come back from. I told her she wasn't welcome back until she sorted herself out, until she decided what kind of person she really was. The next morning, she stormed out, leaving in her bitchy, self-righteous mood. I watched her drive away, feeling numb but somehow also relieved. The house was finally quiet, but the emptiness inside was deafening. I stayed home that day, just sitting on the couch, staring into space. I kept thinking about everything. The lies, the betrayal, how she'd been sneaking off to meet John in that shed. I couldn't understand how someone I loved and trusted could do something so horrible, so beneath me. Over the next few days, I started to piece my life back together. I contacted a lawyer, started getting the paperwork ready for a divorce. I wasn't interested in fighting over custody or money. I just wanted out of this mess. I realized I'd wasted so much time trying to hold on to something that was already gone. My image of Lisa was shattered, replaced by this bitchy, manipulative woman who thought she could do whatever she wanted and get away with it. Some friends told me I should fight for the marriage, that maybe she'd come around, but I knew better. I'd seen her true colors. She was selfish, bitchy, and full of lies. I didn't want any part of that anymore. I wanted peace, true honesty, and someone who actually cared about me. I learned that trusting blindly is a fool's game, that sometimes love isn't enough to save a marriage when one person is so intent on betraying everything you stand for. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I guess nobody wants to believe the person they love could be so bitchy, so manipulative, and so willing to cheat. I've learned a lot from this nightmare, mostly that I deserve better, and I won't tolerate being disrespected like that again. If you're in a similar situation, trust your gut. If your wife or husband is sneaking around, lying to your face, and acting like they own you, it's probably time to walk away. Because nobody deserves to be stupidly betrayed over and over. Not me, not you, not anyone. The divorce process was faster than I expected, and honestly, I didn't fight it much. I just wanted out of that toxic mess. I kept thinking about how her attitude had shifted, how she looked at me like I was some inconvenience, like I was just there to serve her. That bitchy smirk she always had, now replaced with a sneer when she accused me of being jealous or controlling. I realized then that her attitude, her manipulations, her lies, they weren't just about the affair. It was who she was all along. When the papers finally went through, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. On one hand, I was finally free from her bitchy attitude, her constant nagging, and her manipulations. On the other, I was broken inside. I thought about the years we spent together, the promises we made, the kids we had. It wasn't easy to accept that the woman I thought I knew had been hiding this side of herself, that she could be so cruel, so manipulative, so full of shit. But I also realized how much I'd been blind, how I ignored the signs, how I made excuses for her bitchy attitude, how I always tried to see the best in her. It's funny how betrayal changes your perspective. Now, I see her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. I learned that sometimes love isn't enough when the other person is willing to lie and cheat behind your back. In the aftermath, I started focusing on myself and the kids. I got a new job, moved into a smaller place, and tried to rebuild my life. The kids didn't know everything that happened, and I did. Want to ruin their perception of their mother. But I knew I had to protect them from her bitchy side, especially her manipulative tendencies. I made sure they saw that I was there for them, that I was trying to make everything better. I also started seeing a counselor, not because I was weak, far from it, but because I needed to heal. I had to confront a lot of feelings, anger, sadness, betrayal, and figure out how to move past them. It was rough, but I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that sometimes walking away is the best option, even if it hurts like hell. Now, looking back, I realize I should have listened to my gut sooner. I should have seen her bitchy manipulations for what they were. But I also learned that I shouldn't blame myself for trusting someone I loved, even when the signs were right in front of me. Sometimes, people hide their true selves very well, and it's only when everything falls apart that the truth comes out. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: trust your instincts. If your wife or husband starts acting bitchy, secretive, or like they're hiding something, brush it off. Dig deeper, ask questions, and don't be afraid to confront the truth. Because when it comes to betrayal like this, ignorance isn't bliss. It's just setting yourself up for more pain. And in my case, the only way to heal was to walk away from the lie and start fresh. Living through all this has taught me more than I ever thought I'd learn about myself and the people I trusted. I used to think that love, loyalty, and honesty were the foundation of a marriage. Now I see that sometimes people hide their true colors so well that you only see them when it's too late. Lisa's bitchy, manipulative attitude was always there beneath the surface, just waiting for the right moment to come out. I was blind to it for years, blinded by love and the hope that she'd change. Losing her was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. Not just because of the betrayal, but because of the realization that the person you shared your life with might be capable of such cruelty. Her lies, her cheating, her dismissiveness, they all added up to someone I didn't recognize anymore. It's like I was living with a stranger, someone who cared only about herself and her own pleasure. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've taken away. Never ignore the signs, and never let someone treat you like you're nothing. I've come to accept that some relationships are just not worth saving when the other person is so full of shit. Moving on wasn't easy, and honestly, I still have moments when I feel angry and betrayed. But I also feel stronger now, more aware of what I deserve. I refuse to let her bitchy attitude and manipulative lies define me or my future. I'm rebuilding, slowly but surely. I'm focused on my kids, on my job, and on finding happiness again, without her in it. If there's anything I want others to learn from my story, it's this: trust your instincts. If your wife or husband is acting bitchy, secretive, or like they're hiding something, don't ignore it. Look for the signs, confront the truth, and don't be afraid to walk away if you have to. Because nobody deserves to be betrayed, lied to, or disrespected in the name of love. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk out the door and never look back. And that's exactly what I did.